DivideZero.
They say time heals all wounds, unless you're me, because a certain game with a 3 on the end refuses to get out of my life. Not even 2 years in solitude can be enough to escape the wrath of this particular gem. Yeah, that's right, it's time for the F.E.A.R 3 video. So late that most people probably forgot. But not me, no. I can't forget, but don't worry, I didn't have to do this one alone. Meet Axel.
Hey, wanna cuddle? Don't you run away from me.
That actually
It's snuggling
sounds.
time.
That actually sounds really close to F.E.A.R.
Mum said it's my turn on the Xbox.
Okay, let's play this fucking game.
He's been nagging me to play the game for most of my hiatus, and made it very clear he wasn't gonna quit badgering me until I made a video on it. So I agreed. On the condition he had to play it with me. Taking a prisoner was the only way I was getting through this nightmare a second time. Still, at least he had fun.
What are you doing? Get your ass down here!
I don't wanna.
Fuck me.
The game begins with Paxton Fettel giving a light recap of the plot for F.E.A.R 1. And you better get used to it, because it's gonna happen more than once.
My name is not important. I just fucking hate this world and this human worm.
We then see Alma in what appears to be the Discord Light Realm right before she gets spooked by some unseen monster. Anyway, it's been 9 months since the events of the first 2 games and the Point Man is being kept as a prisoner by Armorcam. You're set free by a newly revived Paxton Fettel. Yeah, apparently he's your buddy now, don't question it. I mean, yeah, we shot him in the head, but he's over it now. Once the intro is over, we receive a distress call from our old F.E.A.R buddy Jinsoon Kwon. How the hell is she still alive after 9 months in the apocalypse? I haven't got a fucking clue, but we'll talk about the story later. Let's discuss the visuals.
Is this? Where the fuck do we go?
Also, dude, look outside this window. Look at that.
It's a JPEG.
Jesus fuck.
F.E.A.R 3 is an ugly game, even for 2011. The first game was nothing crazy for the time regarding the graphics themselves, but it excelled with impressive dynamic lighting and special effects. The second game looked fine enough for the time and had objectively better texture work, but botched the lighting completely and had effects that didn't come close to those of the original. Here, however, we've downgraded in almost every single aspect. Some levels look alright, while others look like the assets are straight up unfinished. In only the second level, my buddy Axel found one of the most poorly modeled staircases I have ever seen in a video game.
Let's go.
Look at these stairs.
Oh
Actually looks
my.
like a PNG.
What the fuck is that?
That is some Doom original level.
I am
shit,
pretty sure in a few days on like Unreal Engine, or no, even some old fucking engine, I could make better stairs than these.
Hang on, look here as well. You can see that the stairs are just a piece that was slotted in.
Oh my god. This is real. This is actually real. I never noticed this playing. This is the type of shit I would normally notice. This is fucking disgusting.
And they used these stairs twice, like they were proud of the work they did.
Freeman.
They reused the same stair.
There are fire animations that looked improperly placed, 2D textures with their borders still attached, and level backgrounds that look like actual wallpaper. This same problem is even evident in the character models. The Point Man has a face now, which looks fine enough, except he has only one facial expression, and he makes this throughout the entire game. And he still doesn't speak, by the way, which begs the question, why did they bother showing his face to begin with?
You know what I think? I think you felt guilty. And that's what kept you on the run.
Bro, that man... Point Man is a walking grimace. What makes you think he feels anything?
A walking grimace.
Have you seen his face?
Paxton's new model looks fine in a vacuum, but in comparison, he looks different enough that you could pass him for a whole new character. Remember how I mentioned Jinsoon Kwon? Yeah, well, she looks like this now. Yeah, 9 months in the apocalypse completely erased her pores, wrinkles, and all signs of human facial expressions. Doctors hate her. The lighting ranges from non-existent to entirely underwhelming. At least F.E.A.R 2 managed to have fake dynamic lighting. This game couldn't even do that. At the worst of times, it's like I'm watching a J.J. Abrams movie. At the very least, I can say that the guns are modeled well, but even that comes with a fat asterisk due to the next thing. The art style. Remember how I complained in F.E.A.R 2 that they butchered the art style of the series by covering everything in RGB lights and slapping a urine filter on every single horror sequence? Well, apparently, someone in Day One Studios took that as a personal challenge and decided to mess with it even more. The weapons and enemy designs are clearer cut sci-fi more now than they have ever been. The little horror sections that remain are still paved over with comically overdone post-processing effects that completely kill whatever tension there might have been, and the series has completely lost its original identity. If you've noticed that the footage sometimes looks like blurry shit, that's because the game has built-in depth of field and motion blur. No, you can't turn it off. Not without installing third-party fixes anyway. I did use them for my original playthrough way back when, but this time I decided I wanted this to be as authentic an experience as possible. And surprise, it was a complete headache. What a terrible day to have eyes. Regarding sound, this is going to be short, as I've really got nothing to say that I haven't already spoken about with every previous game. The first was the benchmark, with awesome audio across the board and some of the most satisfying sounding weapons in any game. The soundtrack by Nathan Grigg in the first two games was also really unique. Not the type of music I jam to in my free time, but it worked for the games themselves and was very recognizable. First looking at the general audio, it's fine. Nothing stood out to me as outright bad, so I'll give it that. As you'd expect though, it's the weapons I take issue with.
I love being forced to use melee attacks.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Never mind. Hang on, I'll get one.
My man just took a point-blank shotgun blast to the face. God, the shotgun sucks!
Ignoring their power, which I'll discuss later, the weapons just sound weak. The pistol, what used to be the basiest handgun in all of gaming, now sounds like a pistol from any other game.
Who cares? Just shoot. You see that?
The assault rifle, impact negative. Shotguns, grave defaced. The sniper was okay, I guess. And the special weapons felt decent to use, but is this really what we've amounted to after 3 games? Normally I'd offer in-depth examples of the audio work, but honestly, I don't want to. The voice work is also fine. The point man doesn't speak, so that's a plus. Paxton Fettel is a delight as always, although I'm not sure if that's because it's a genuinely good performance, or because the VA is really hamming it up.
Minute to log into my PSN, brother.
Jin speaks words in the language of English, and the other voices are passable, what few there actually are. Typically, I'd finalize audio by talking about the music, but I really can't this time around. To start, Nathan Grigg, the original composer, is gone this time around. Great. In truth, I barely noticed the existence of the music most of the time, and when I did, it just sounds like generic action game music that I've heard everywhere else. And the ending music...
You spilt the ketchup. Battle. What?
Yeah, this game has audio. It's disappointing. Let's move on. Describing what a F.E.A.R game should look like is simple talk in my eyes. Linear level design with light exploration elements, a very reserved sci-fi aesthetic, smart enemies, a mix of tactical and action gameplay, as well as a healthy balance of action and horror. Not all these elements are of equal importance, but they are all things that come to mind when I think of what defines F.E.A.R's identity. So, what of these elements, if any, does F.E.A.R 3 get right?
This game was made on the same device that fucking The Last of Us was.
Also, I can't run.
Yeah, no, that's
Scripted event.
Yeah.
Oh my, you're joking. Come here. Come look at this. I can't get over this.
Oh yeah, I knew that already, so I didn't even think about trying.
I'm a fucking ghost, bro. What do you mean I can't mantle some rubbish?
Okay, don't get me wrong, if I'm being fully objective here, in most areas this game is perfectly serviceable. Pitting it against the other generic FPS bin juice of its time on the PS3 and Xbox 360, it fits like a glove. There is a new cover system implemented, but why? I mean, it works, I never had any issues with it, but I just don't see why it's necessary. The enemies in this game don't play by cover shooter logic, they all either stand in the open or they charge you, so I don't see why you would want to stick behind boxes and walls for the whole game. The actual implementation is solid. I can't recall another time I've seen a first-person cover system that works this well. The problem is, when you include a system like this, your levels and enemy behaviors need to be designed around it. If not, it just becomes a pointless mechanic and a gimmick, like it is here. My lack of footage should say all you need to know. I barely used it. F.E.A.R 3 also, for the most part, opts to ignore the action-horror mix of previous games, and instead goes full speed ahead into action territory. This choice is present in just about every single aspect of its very design. Levels are no longer linear with light exploration, they are basically glorified hallways now. Enemies are dumb as rocks, weapons are all laser beams with no sense of kick or recoil. Combined with the weak audio, every single weapon feels like a BB gun. Every level plays the exact same, go from A to B, kill everything with a pulse. Sometimes they throw special enemies at you, sometimes they throw you in a boring ass wave defense section. That's about it. In the only horror type level in the game, the developers actually throw you in a wave defense section against zombies. This is real. It's not just once either, they do it multiple times in the same level. Weapons. There aren't many of them, most aren't all that unique, and they don't feel that great to use. The pistol is garbage. The SMG is okay, and the shotgun is a complete abomination. The sniper feels decent, but sounds off. The assault rifle is just some sci-fi burst rifle instead of the powerhouse that it used to be. The dual Uzis feel alright to use, but still not amazing. There's a laser gun, that felt decent. The penetrator is also back. I think it might be the only weapon that feels about on par with its original version. I will give some credit, at least the grenades feel good to use. They can be cooked and banked or thrown straight at enemies for impact damage. One good thing is better than none. Aside from the dollar store 501st, there are a few other baddies to worry about. For specials, there's a few to consider. Phase casters are these blue laser enemies that appear from Interval 2. I feel like calling them specials is a bit of a stretch. They barely behave any differently to the normal clones, only difference is they have lasers and a crap ton of health. Phase commanders are just the roided up versions of casters, except instead of lasers, they use penetrators, and they are somehow even more spongy. You first encounter one of them as a boss fight, except the way the game handles it is questionable. You play the entire level with the commander taunting you, building up the eventual fight, but when you do finally fight and kill him, the game has you fight like 3 or 4 more after him in the same arena.
pretty sure, well, if he's not nearly dead, we've heard him a lot. His fucking shield's gone. Yeah, he's dead. No, great. What? I love how they did all this build-up of him shit-talking us this whole level. We kill him, and then they just throw an identical of him immediately after. Oh.
Now he's mine.
Wow, you can just play yourself.
I can after we destroy his shit.
Oh,
Another
don't-
one!
You're joking. Oh my god. What's that
Right,
for?
don't kill the one whose shield I took down. I can possess him.
Okay.
I just need a minute to recharge.
There are also the mech enemies in boss fights, and I mean, it's what you'd expect. There's also helicopters for you to fight. Early 2010s FPS games love helicopter fights. Bonus points if you place half a dozen rocket launchers nearby. The game also throws some supernatural enemies at you in some areas, but they're barely worth mentioning. There are the Kmart zombies I mentioned from earlier. Scavengers are these four-legged crawler enemies that more serve to annoy you than challenge. F.E.A.R 3 has a decent number of enemies to fight, but they all feel the exact same. Fill them with lead, spam grenades, go home and wash. I honestly wish I could go into proper depth regarding F.E.A.R 3's gameplay, but it is also goddamn generic. I am struggling to find words for it. It is every FPS you have ever played, and then some. I mean, they got rid of healing packs and armor to replace it with a fucking regenerating health system. Also, there's a 2-weapon carry limit now. Yay! Okay, I gotta find something positive. They need to have innovated somewhere, right? 1 second. Let's see. You've got it. Well, if this is all I've got, I'll take it. F.E.A.R isn't just a single-player game anymore. You can play the entire game solo if you want, or you can do it the intended way and share the psychological torture with a friend.
A terrorist.
One is the point man, and the other plays as Paxton Fettel. Hell, there's even a leveling system now which gives you passive upgrades to your various stats by playing the game more. I guess that's a positive? Depending on how you look at it. Thankfully, playing the two characters is not the same. Point Man plays mostly like he did before. You can still slow down time, but now it will also apply to your partner when activated, and you will still have his trademark moves, like the fly and slide kicking. Although the kick feels so abysmally bad that I only ever used it ironically because, well, look at this shit. At least slow-mo is still fun. Well, as fun as it can be without having any of the cool effects.
See something. Can I like
Try and move stuff into it. Oh,
hey, look at that.
next gen gaming.
Now, playing as Paxton is different, but also not as big a difference as you'd hope. Here's the breakdown. Since Paxton is a ghost, he's got two forms, ghost form and possessed form. In your ghost form, he's pretty much a glorified support. You shoot red balls that do barely anything, light your teammate up with Eiffel 65 beams to protect the two of you from damage, and possess your enemies, letting you move and shoot weapons like normal. Okay, so turns out Paxton also can explode enemies using his possession ability. Neither me nor my friend knew this when playing the game, so I don't have any footage of us using it. I found this out while doing research and writing the script, so I figured I'd throw this in here. Apparently that's something he can do, but I never did it. Playing both characters, Paxton does feel marginally better to play than Point Man. His possession offers him more movement and combat variety, although he does benefit from being played in a co-op lobby, so he can use his teammates slow-mo. I don't know about you, but playing a F.E.A.R game without bullet time isn't my idea of fun. Then again, neither is playing F.E.A.R 3. Aside from playing two different characters, the game does little to make it puzzles to solve or enemies to fight. Only difference in co-op is that there's two of you. In some cases, the co-op actively works against it. Later in the campaign, you'll be faced with a lengthy section where you must take control of a mech and travel along a bridge. In single player, this is a glorified turret section without much going on. Co-op, on the other hand, is a complete goddamn mess. Some areas don't feel wide enough for the space 2 mechs require. Thing is, if one of you chooses to forego using a mech and stay on foot, you can't really do much except let your friend do all the work while you stare at the sky. I was actually forced to do this against my will at one point due to the game's ridiculous player tethering. Speaking of which, like many co-op games, F.E.A.R 3 has a mechanic that prevents you and your partner from moving too far apart. The thing is, it's inconsistent as all hell and doesn't make any goddamn sense. If you're playing as F.E.A.R in co-op and you move too far from the point man, the game will teleport you back to him. Here is my problem with this. The distance required for this to happen is not set. In fact, it seems to change from level to level. There were times where we could move incredibly far apart without issue, but in other instances, I couldn't even make it 25 meters without getting pulled back. If you're in a mech as F.E.A.R, by the way, and this happens, you will be teleported out of it. I think this game might be allergic to fun. Also, whenever you're playing in co-op, you'll frequently run into doorways or areas that won't open, giving you the waiting for players message until both of you are in the correct spot, stopping you from progressing. This happens a lot. I was genuinely surprised how many times we were made to stop and sniff the air. What else is there really to say? There were some small elements I left out, like the forced-in horror moments with no impact and the fact the game is extremely short, the shortest of the F.E.A.R series to be precise, but I can't be bothered. Watching the series go from such a great high to these lows is pretty demoralizing. I can only talk about the same downfall in so many ways before it just gets exhausting. What was once a truly ambitious and unique action horror blend with fun gameplay and an interesting story has now become the most comatose game I have played in a while. Think of the series dying as a mercy killing. I've seen serial killers with brighter futures. And the story, well, that's next up. Same deal as usual. If you don't want spoilers, skip to here. The game supposedly takes place 9 months after the events of F.E.A.R 2's ending. Apparently after Alma crashed the helicopter at the end of the first game, Point Man was captured from the wreckage by Armacam. First question, if it's been 9 months since the end of F.E.A.R 2, which supposedly happened just after the end of F.E.A.R 1, what the hell have Armacam been doing for all this time? Have they really just been interrogating Point Man for almost an entire year? By the looks of him, you'd think he only just got there, but no, he's been there that long, and not only have they not gotten past the beating stage yet, or just outright killed him, they haven't even realized the guy literally doesn't speak. If he hasn't uttered a mumble in 9 months of imprisonment and interrogation, why the fuck are they still trying? We are only in the first cutscene of the game, and already nothing makes any sense. By the way, the game never actually states that 9 months have passed. Truth is that I can only assume this by the fact that Alma's pregnancy is at its last stages, meaning unless she has super speed pregnancies, which nothing in the lore supports up to this point, it's been 9 months since F.E.A.R 2. Now, why am I bringing up the timeline again? Well, that's because Armacam are apparently interrogating Point Man to try and discover the location of Jin-Soon Kwon, your old F.E.A.R buddy. First off, Armacam captured Point Man from the wreckage of a helicopter crash that Jin was also in. If they needed both of them, why the hell did they only grab him? Also, why do they need Jin? The Point Man I get, he's Alma's kid and one of the prototypes, but why the hell do they want Jin-Soon Kwon? Also, I only know Armacam captured Point Man from the helicopter crash because it's shown in a prequel comic book. Yeah, that information isn't even in the game. Anyway, Paxton Fettel frees the Point Man from his captors. More questions. Why is Paxton just a ghost now? In the F.E.A.R 2 DLC, Paxton was revived by taking on a new human body, except now for some reason he's just a ghost, but he can still possess people on a whim. His telekinetic abilities are pretty well established at this point, but his ghost powers aren't explained and the rules aren't super clear, so it's just confusing. Also, why is Paxton helping the Point Man? Up to this point, the two of them have not shared a single positive interaction in the games. Last time they met each other, Point Man shot Paxton in the face. As the game goes on, it becomes clear that Paxton's motivation is solely about family, and the whole idea is that it's them against the world because of the cruelty that was inflicted upon them during the experiments. The issue is, Paxton's loyalty to Alma was established at day one, but until this point, he really hasn't shown to give a shit about Point Man at all. so his weird Vin Diesel level of family speak comes across as really jarring and out of character. Oh, whatever. The brothers escape the prison, they fight a bunch of armor cam in some slums before stealing a helicopter. Apparently, the point man knows how to fly a helicopter now. Okay. Also, he throws this guy out of the helicopter for some reason, but keeps the other guy alive. Why? The two brothers are heading back to F.E.A.R, the location of the first two games. The point man wants to go rescue Jin. Paxton doesn't really give a shit, but he tags along anyway. Sounds about right. The helicopter crashes, because of course it does, and somehow Point Man survives. That is 2 helicopter crashes and barely a scratch. Nice. Here's a good time to ask, how the hell is Jin still alive? The game clearly shows that F.E.A.R has turned into a literal apocalyptic zone. Whatever population remains, they've seemingly all been turned into zombies or monsters, meanwhile Armor Cam is still blowing through the place, killing everything they find. Just a reminder, Jin is a combat medic. She can't fight shit, yet we're supposed to believe she survived 9 months in this hellhole. What about food? Water? Is anything gonna make sense in this game? Also, as the brothers continue, they keep getting weird visions of Harlan Wade and some weird monster called the Creep. Remember that, it's gonna be important later. The brothers find Jin and she wastes no time in telling us about Beckett, the protagonist of F.E.A.R 2. We're reminded of what happened to him at the end of the last game. Also, he's voiced now. Why? I've got no idea. Now Jin wants us to stop Alma's pregnancy, Paxton's a bit peeved about it, but they head off anyway. The brothers go to an airport because I guess Beckett's at an airport being held by Armor Cam. They kill a bunch of people and eventually they reach him. Insert one of the most pointless scenes and plot points in the entire game. Paxton possesses Beckett just to tell us what we already know before killing him. Yes, they brought Beckett back just for him to tell us pointless exposition before axing him straight away. You can't make this up. After that, the brothers head back to the facility where they were kept and experimented on as kids. Wait, how did they find this place? Why is it still standing after everything? Keep wondering, because this game isn't going to tell you. Moving through the place, the brothers relive old traumatic memories from their childhoods and destroy the memories' corresponding items. While all this is happening, they are randomly attacked by the Creep from earlier until eventually, they find themselves in another vision. This time, it's a boss fight against the creature. Apparently this thing is some manifestation of Harlan Wade and the trauma he inflicted on them, and by defeating the creature as well as destroying all the items, the brothers are moving on from those memories and recovering. This is not well explained or executed at all, and the first time around, I had no fucking clue what was going on. Even now that I do know what the point is, I'm no less irritated at just how poorly done this whole idea is. Defeating the boss, the two brothers go and find Alma, close to giving birth. The point man aims to kill the child, but Paxton jumps in to stop him. 2 possible endings can happen here depending on certain factors. If you're playing single player, which one you get depends on who you are playing as. However, if you played the entire game in co-op, the ending is decided by which player had the highest score in the end. In the point man ending, he shoots F.E.A.R in the head. Again, that's gotta be pretty embarrassing. Wait, how the fuck did he shoot a ghost? He moves to kill Alma, but instead he helps her give birth. She dies in peace, and we learn from Jin that apparently everything in the world returned to normal. Huh? If you get F.E.A.R's ending, he possesses the point man and then takes the baby, claiming he's gonna mold the child in his image before eating Alma to get her powers. I don't care anymore. Last but not least, a post-credits scene will happen showing security footage of the original Synchronicity event, something only referenced in passing in the previous games. Why are we seeing this now? Your guess is as good as mine. And that's the end. Okay, what the fuck was that? A lot happens in the plot of F.E.A.R 3, but also nothing at all. The base idea of the two brothers sharing the same past but different goals and not knowing whether to work with or against each other is a novel one, but they don't do anything with it. The 2 endings require one or the other to win no matter what. There is no option to actually work together in the end. The game has these bodies that you can interact with throughout. Think of them like collectibles. Now when you use these, you can choose to share the link with your teammate or steal it to benefit yourself. The thing is, there is absolutely zero reason to share it with your buddy, since only one of you can win in the end, no matter what. At the same time, even if there was a choice to work together, there'd be no tension. The point man is a silent protagonist. There is no clear conflict with him to speak of, or if there is, It's not communicated. Paxton is a one-trick pony. All he does is either spout pointless exposition you should already know from the last 2 games, or he just talks about family constantly in edgelord dialogue. I couldn't give less of a shit about either character. Same goes for Jen. I didn't give 2 shits if she lived or died. If you felt like I'd rushed through my story summary, that's because the story of this game is genuinely that half-baked. For most of your time spent playing, you are just going from level to level mindlessly without purpose, and when the story does decide to move, it relies on pure contrivance. On top of the 2 helicopter crashes you survive, there is also this scene where a tower collapses, causing the entire area around to implode on itself. But don't worry, Paxton fucking force pushes you out of the way. Like, I don't care if I'm out of the way of the tower itself. How did getting thrown several miles not injure me at all? Also, how come the enemies can damage Paxton in gameplay and he can be shot in the head by Point Man, but this entire building collapsing on him doesn't do anything? Also, Jin literally just appears out of thin air to save you from the rubble after the collapse. Yeah, despite her not having a rescue ghost, she got out just fine. Also, characters frequently just appear at new places without any explanation as to how they got there. Interval 6, the bridge, ends with the bridge collapsing and Point Man falling into the middle of the ocean. By the end of Interval 7, he's just at the airport.
Okay, wait, and we just appear at the fucking airport.
Alright, your turn.
We just appear at the airport.
Yep.
I can't with this game, man. I can't with it. It's so shit.
How did he get there? Did he fucking swim? Did Paxton force push him over and over again, bouncing him across the ocean like a pebble until he hit shore? I have so many questions. They go to the facility where they were born, no context for their arrival or how they found it. Also, why are we at this place destroying memories? This was never built up to at all. This level literally comes out of fucking nowhere. Same goes for the ending. How did they find Alma? Where even is Alma right now? Why does the whole end of the game feel so rushed? I could go on forever, but I've said all that I need to. It's a mess. The pacing is awful. Nothing is built up, characters don't act like themselves, the themes aren't fully explored. The truth is, it fails the key rule of any sequel, that being, it needs to justify why it exists. This story does nothing to improve the F.E.A.R universe, if anything, it regresses it. F.E.A.R 3 is, to put it lightly, a terrible sequel that leaves a sad stain on F.E.A.R as a series, no doubt being the reason the series has been dead for over a decade. All the fun gameplay, style, and identity that made me love the first game so much is dead and buried, and F.E.A.R 3 was the final nail in the coffin. Before I end this off, there is some important context I would like to include. As is the case with most games of uneven quality, F.E.A.R 3 had quite a development cycle. Here's the short version. Back when F.E.A.R 1 was still being created, Monolith had signed a publishing deal with Vivendi to make the game. However, Warner Brothers would buy Monolith outright, resulting in a copyright split. This meant Vivendi owned the F.E.A.R name, but none of the actual intellectual property. Warner Brothers and Monolith, on the other hand, owned all the characters and content, but they couldn't use the name itself. As a result of this, 2 separate F.E.A.R sequels would be developed at the exact same time. Warner Brothers would make their sequel with Monolith, while Vivendi would hire Day One, developers of the F.E.A.R 1 console ports, to make their own original sequel. Later down the line, before either game was finished, Warner Brothers and Monolith would successfully get the name from Vivendi. This meant Monolith's game would go on to become F.E.A.R 2 Project Origin. As for Day One, they wound up starting their game from scratch, as Warner Brothers now wanted them to turn their project into an eventual F.E.A.R 3. Are you confused yet? Then after all this headache, the actual development of F.E.A.R 3 was a disaster. Day One had originally gone in with plans to make it a faithful sequel focusing on single-player horror. Warner Brothers, on the other hand, wanted to capitalize on the Call of Duty audience. Yes, because that has always worked very well. So, Day One was forced to make F.E.A.R 3 a more action-focused title. The co-op aspect was also forced into it by Warner Brothers. On top of the constant creative conflicts over the direction of the game, Day One staff were subject to brutal crunch during its development. This allegedly included an 8-month straight period where many devs were working 60 to 80-hour weeks. Some staff actually slept on the site as a result of the extreme work hours. Numerous staff members quit the studio during development due to the poor conditions. The game would be delayed 3 times before finally releasing on the 21st of June 2011. Reviews were average to decent, but the game sold like shit and the series hasn't been seen since. So yeah, despite my harsh thoughts on the game, I don't truly blame the developers for how it all turned out. If these truly were the conditions they were under, how are they supposed to produce anything of quality? This one falls onto Warner Brothers, and considering the state of many of their recent releases, it would seem some companies never change. After finishing my work on F.E.A.R 2, I felt relieved, like I'd taken a huge weight off my shoulders. Here, however, there's no catharsis. This hasn't been some satisfying teardown. Rather, it's felt more like telling a man with no hands that he sucks at finger painting. Sure, the statement might be true, but it's not his fault, so in a way, I feel like a complete dick for even complaining. Oh well, it is what it is. If there's a lesson to take from all this, it's this one. No matter what you say or do, never forget there's real people behind all the media you're taking in, and no story is black and white. Thanks for watching. I'll start by apologizing for a lengthy absence. A combination of procrastination and life problems led to things stopping in a way I hadn't anticipated. Still, I'm back now, and I've got another video cooking already, so expect another one sooner rather than later. It's gonna be a change of pace. Until next time though, ta-ta.